With my copyright lesson, I used the Assure model. First of all, I analyzed my learners, which I chose 5th grade. The learners, I found out that they are digital natives. They have limited knowledge of copyright infringement. Students expressed the interest in using the internet as a resource for their final project. The images that I included in the presentation, they offer the students to make connections with the students of diverse backgrounds. So I chose images of different ethnicities so that I could help make my students make those connections. The lesson is for upper elementary students. The pictures are diverse in ages as well. And the lesson is adaptable for K through 12 students. However, this lesson is geared towards 5th grade. And I also collaborated with the reading teacher. State standards and objectives. The standard is digital citizenship. The student practices safe, responsible, legal, and ethical behavior while using digital tools and resources. The lesson objective is the students are expected to abide by copyright law and the fair use guidelines for educational multimedia. The strategies and the resources. The teacher, which in this case is me, the librarian, created the slides with images and gave the opportunity to actively participate with quickly assessing with red and green cards, or students standing or sitting based on the scenario read to them. Students use critical thinking skills to evaluate the situation and conclude whether the scenario is breaking the copyright rules, which is the red card, or is it allowable, green card. The resources that I selected were based on age-appropriate copyright rules and materials that they needed to know, and it applied to the students using this lesson in their real-life experiences when they interact digitally. Utilize my resources. The resources in the slides are scaffolded. So my goal was to scaffold them so that the students can break up the concept, first of all, of copyright and be able to categorize their thinking of what copyright is and why it's important to be aware as a student. The slides began with the introduction of prior knowledge with the word copyright. And as the slides go on, it builds onto their knowledge throughout the slides, eventually asking students to participate through a guided lesson, which is that activity of the red card or the green card, and then independent assignment to assess if students mastered the objective through the Nearpod assignment. Did I require learner participation? There are activities that are embedded in the lesson where students are able to test their knowledge in a comfortable and fun environment by just lifting colored cards and standing or sitting when the scenario is read to them. If time is allowed, we can also debate whether or not the scenario, why they chose red or why they chose green, if time allows. They can also confirm or modify their thinking. After they see and we talk about why it is copyright infringement or why is it allowed, they can reflect on it, and that should help them with the lesson that finishes with the Nearpod, the interactive lesson, matching examples of scenarios where copyright rules are infringed and those that are allowed. So based on the activity we did guided, it should help them out on their independent work. I also included a quick exit ticket so that the students can feel comfortable just individually reflecting on the lesson on a post-it note. I want to know what was solid learning, what was confusion to them, and where they're going to still be needing help. The way that I'm going to evaluate and revise is by a librarian created rubric based on my objective. So as the students complete the Nearpod assessment of matching copyright infringement, it's going to explain scenarios, and they're going to match when permission is allowed and when they're infringing copyright rules. After evaluating the scores from the rubric that I created, I'm going to reflect and I'm going to be reteaching, whether it's whole group or small groups, and I will also spiral this skill into other library lessons. I will also follow up with a professional development for the teachers And I believe it would benefit all teachers about copyright rules, and we would just adapt according to their grade level. The exit ticket that I've included also helps evaluate and revise my teaching, because the exit ticket will help guide exactly where students are confused and where areas of need may be in this particular topic. The rubric that I created is really just a simple way of assessing whether they mastered the objective or not. So the topic is of digital citizenship within technology, copyright. The student practices safe, responsible, legal, and ethical behavior while using digital tools and resources. So they would gain a total of 4 points. So 4 points is great work. They identified all the copyright infringement examples. So that if they matched 10 out of 10, then they would get the 4 points. And if they identified most of the copyright infringement examples, which is 8 out of 10, then they're almost there. They would gain 3 points. I like the way that this gave titles to each one, because it really gives them the opportunity to feel good about what they're doing. If they're not getting it, it's try again. Starting to get it, there is potential there that they're understanding some of it, or most or all of it. So if they're starting to get it, it's 2 points. They identified some of the copyright infringement, which could be 4 or 5 out of the 10. And they got 0 points. That's because they were unable to identify the copyright infringements without help. They needed assistance. So they would gain just 0 points. And that's where it would just be where I'd reflect on how I would be working with those students. Either it's going to be as a class, small group, maybe just individuals, or just spiral it into other lessons of libraries. And I've also included the references. The rubric maker is where I was able to create the rubric, and I added the website of where I found it. So I do believe that teachers can and librarians can benefit from this lesson, because I was able to go through each letter of the Assure model and felt confident about what I was doing. And there really is a great way. The rubric I found very helpful, because it's a great way to evaluate the students when they're done, and to see as a librarian where I'm going to reflect my future lessons.